Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel Binary Abreast. Today in this video, we're gonna talk about file system hierarchies in Linux. So what is meant by file system hierarchy? Well, it is a way in which files and folders are organized in an operating system. For example, in case of Windows, you must have seen this hierarchy. It will start from C drive, and inside C drive there will be folders like program files, program data, users, Windows. Inside Windows there will be folders like system32, kernel32, etc. Inside users there will be user specific directories like user1, user2, and further inside the user specific directory there will be folders like downloads, desktop, videos, music, etc. Right? So what are these? It's the hierarchical organization of files and folders, right? Things like what should go inside this folder or which folder a particular file should be kept in. It's all about structuring everything in a logical way, so it becomes easier to find, manage, and understand. That is what we mean by the file system hierarchy. Different operating systems will have their own file system hierarchies. This is in case of Windows, and this is in case of Mac. And if you see, Mac and Linux have similar kind of path hierarchies, as Mac is Unix based operating system and Linux is motivated from Unix. So folders like bin, etc, deb, it is common in both the operating systems. So in this video we will be focused on file system hierarchies in case of Linux. So this is the entire tree representing the file system hierarchy in case of Linux. It starts from the top node, which is called as root and is indicated by /. We will discuss about all important files and folders that is being displayed here, leaving out the non-essential ones. So let's go to the terminal and explore the Linux file system. Currently we are inside user home directory, which I can see by executing pwt command. We are inside home, inside Aparijit. This Aparijit is the username. So we are inside home. Inside home there is a folder called as Aparijit, which is the user that is existing on the system, and inside Aparijit is our current working directory. Now let's go to the top by executing cd/ command. So if I do cd/, I can go to the top of the hierarchy, which is also known as root. Now the term root might sound little bit ambiguous to you. It can have two different meanings and we have to understand the context. If you are saying the word root in the context of file system hierarchy, it indicates the top of the hierarchy. And in the context of users, the term root indicates the super user or the user having maximum privileges. You can see here our directory name root resides inside the root top of the hierarchy, and this directory named root is the home directory of the root user. So this root is the home directory for the root user, and this root simply means the top of the file system hierarchy. It is not the actual folder. Now if I execute ls command, I can see all the directories that are being listed here. So let's do it, and you can see bin, etc, home, media, and same thing you can see here, bin, etc, home, media. So these directories are the first childs of the root. Okay, let's begin our explanation from the home directory itself. This is the directory where user specific data will be stored. Inside home there will be directory for individual users. So let's say there are two users, user1 and user2. Those two users will be inside the home directory, and further inside those specific users there will be folders like desktop, downloads, videos, music. These are the folders where user will store their day-to-day data and files. Now let's go to the terminal. Currently we are inside the root, so let's go to the home, and now if we do ls, you can see these are the two users that are existing in my system. Now let me go inside the Aparijit folder, cd Aparijit, and you can see here I'm currently inside the home/home/Aparijit. Now if I do ls, here you can see folders like downloads, desktop, documents. These are the folders that are specific to this user Aparijit. So let me, if I go to downloads, see here these are the files that which are downloaded in my system. And one thing that you should know is these user specific directories are isolated from the entire system, meaning that even if I delete the entire Aparijit folder and everything inside it, my system can still run safely. So if I go to let's say currently I'm inside home directory. Now even if I delete say rm new user, you can see nothing happens to my user except for that specific user which I deleted. So the main idea here is all the system specific files, all the core files that makes the system will be separated from the user specific home directory. Now let's talk about the etc directory. This folder is basically the storehouse of configurations on a Linux system. Think of it like as the central hub where all the important systems and application settings live. Your system runs a bunch of software. Some of them are the usual day-to-day tools like text editors, browsers, or media players. But there are also system level or server-side tools like firewalls and networking services that handle more technical stuff in the background. All these tools, whether desktop apps or background services, need configuration files to function properly. For example, the firewall needs to know which ports to allow or block. The system also needs to manage network settings, user accounts, passwords, web server behavior, and even reverse proxy rules. And where do all these settings live? Yes, the etc directory. Now let me take you inside this folder. Currently we are inside the user home directory. So let us go to the etc folder. And here you can see lots of files and folders are here, and you can see most of them terminate with .conf, which indicates configurations files. So if I enlist .configuration files, you can see there are lots of them. Now let me take you something which you can closely relate. For that I'll try to take you through a software known as UFW. So it is a firewall program that is installed on Ubuntu. So if I go to UFW, you can see here folders like ufw.conf, user.rules. These are the files which tells the firewalls how to operate. So that's why they are called as configuration files. Now let me take you something which can even closely relate. So I'll go to network manager, and you can see here the configuration for the network manager will be inside this network manager.conf file. Now let me take you to the system connections folder. And you can see here, these are the files that store the configuration details for the Wi-Fi networks my system has connected to. Now let me show you the configuration for this IITM Wi-Fi. So let me do cat IITM Wi-Fi, and you need to be root user for doing so. So if you see here, you can find configurations like UUID or the SSID name or even the password. So in summary, /etc is like the brain of your Linux system, which stores configuration blueprints that helps the system and its services run exactly the way you need them to. Now let's talk about /boot directory. This is the directory where all boot related files are stored. While booting your system, you must have seen interface like this. This interface is provided by a software known as GRUB, which is a bootloader software, and it is the first piece of software that is loaded onto your system, and it allows to continue the boot process. Now let me go to the terminal and take you to the /boot directory. And here are lots of files, but we won't be able to understand all of them at this point of time. At least you can see here a folder named grub, which will have files related to our grub bootloader. And let's say if you mistakenly or experimentally delete this grub directory, next time you won't be able to load your system. It's literally the game over unless you know how to install the bootloader again. So in summary, the boot folder will contain the files and folders that are essential in boot process. Now let me talk about this bin folder. In most of the modern Linux distros, this is a symbolic link to this /usr/bin folder. Let me show you in the terminal. Currently I am inside the root. So if I do ls/las, you can see here this bin is a symbolic link which points to usr bin. And this bin directory, which is essentially same as usr bin, will contain the binary files that can be directly executed in the system. Let me go inside the bin directory, and you can see here there are lots of executable files here, and even this will contain the Linux core system binary. So let me search it. Let's look for mkdir, and if you see here, you can see here mkdir and even other Linux commands like ls. You can see here ls, you can see here pwd is here, and you will find most of the other Linux command in this folder itself. Now let's talk about sbin directory, which is a symbolic link to usr sbin directory. We can verify that from the terminal. So if you execute ls command, you can find sbin is a symbolic link to usr sbin directory. And in this sbin directory, we can find commands that are related to system boot up, shutdown, network setup, disk partitioning, and file system repair. I'll show you a few of them here. So let's go to the sbin directory, and if you execute ls command, you can search for shutdown here, and you can see shutdown is available in the sbin directory. And let's say we have reboot, and reboot is also available. And we might have something like parted, which is used for creating partition. And you can see here parted is also here. So sbin directory will contain the executable files that are related to system. Now let's talk about this /mnt and /media folder together. They are the folders which are used for mounting an external file system. In Linux, before using an external file system, first it must be mounted to a particular directory, and this mnt is exactly made for that purpose. However, it is not common to use this directory for day-to-day purpose. It is widely used in cloud environments. Let's say if you want to mount a block storage to your system, then you might mount it inside the mnt directory, and this media directory is used for mounting the removable files. Suppose if I plug a pen drive in my system and execute ls command, you can see here there is a new folder which is the mount point for this newly plugged pen drive. Now let me talk about this /lib directory, which is again a symbolic link to /usr/lib. You can verify it by using ls command. You can see here lib is a symbolic link to usr lib, and this lib directory will contain the shared libraries which are essential for running most of the commands and applications to run. You can compare it with .dll file in Windows, without which many software and applications will not run. Now let's talk about this root directory, which is nothing special but just a home directory for the root user. So let's go to the terminal. Now in order to navigate to the root directory, we have to be super user. So I have to be root user first, and if I go to cd/root, and you can see here it will also have folders like downloads. Since root is not the regular user which I use in my system, so you are not seeing folders like desktop, videos, etc. Now let's talk about this tmp directory. It is a space which is used to store the temporary files created by applications or system. For example, if a program needs to store something temporary like cache file or log file, it is usually kept in this directory. It is important to note that any files stored inside the tmp directory will be deleted after each reboot. Now let's talk about this /opt directory, which stands for optional softwares. This is the folder which will contain the softwares which are not installed by your regular package manager. So the third-party softwares that does not come installed by default to your system will be stored inside the /opt directory. Now let me show in the terminal. Let's go to /opt directory, and if you see here softwares like disk screen, Google, Megasync, these are all the softwares that are installed in my system. Now let's talk about bar directory. This directory stores the data that is meant to grow over the time. So things like cache, log, or temporary files that will grow as the application runs will be stored inside this var directory. We will discuss a couple of folders here, /temp and /log directory. This /tmp directory is similar to this tmp directory at the root level. The only difference is the temporary files will not be deleted in every reboot. So the applications that needs to sustain their temporary files over the system reboot will store their temporary files here in this directory. And this log folder will keep track of everything that is going on the system. So things like system logs or authentication logs or even your application specific logs will be stored inside this log directory. So let me take you to the terminal and illustrate it real quick. So let's go to bar directory and let's go to first tmp directory first. And you can see here these are all the temporary files, but this won't be deleted in every reboot. Now let's go to the log directory. So cd log, and you can see here there are different kinds of log files here. One you can see here is authentication log, and other you can see here this is system log. So let me show you this authentication log first. So this is just a text file, so you can use cat command to see what is inside. And you can see here in this state, in this machine, by this process it has a session closed for user root. So every authentication log will be stored in this auth.log file. Now let's see this syslog files, but this file might be really big, so let me check the size first. Syslog, it is around 93 MB, so better we'll use commands like head syslog or tail syslog to view the top 10 or the bottom 10 of the files. And you can see here these are all the system logs. Now at last let's talk about USR directory. Despite its name, it does not mean user, rather it means Unix system resources. This directory contains user installed softwares, libraries, and documentations. We have already discussed about bin and sbin directory. So for now let's focus on local and include directory. And this local directory is again a folder where softwares are installed, but these softwares are isolated from the core system softwares. And this include directory will contain the header files that are used in languages like C++. So things like stdio.as or socket.as, etc. will be stored inside the include directory. So let's go to the terminal. So let's go to USR. Inside USR, let's go to local. And inside local, let's go to bin. This is where the binary files will be stored. And you can see here these are the different softwares that are available in my system. Now let's go back and check the include directory. So
Let's go to the include directory, and you can see here all the files are terminating with .h. So you can find here stdio.h. You can see here stdio.h and other things like strings.h, string.h. So this will contain the header files used by language like C and C++. Before we wrap up, just a quick note. The directory structure we discussed here is mostly same across all the major Linux distributions. There might be slight variations here and there, but overall the fundamentals stay consistent. And with this, we will close today's video, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.